Nadia.
And I'm Connie.
This is Wonder Womb. This episode we're talking about sex.
Of course.
It's about time.
Yeah.
But how did PCOS impact Connie's romantic relationships?
Let's see it.
Let's see it. So, as we're talking about our wonderful wombs, place of creation, of our cycle, ideally pleasure and sex. So, Connie, how did PCOS impact your sex life and romantic relationships, encounters, whatever it might be? Like, did it play a role in it? Probably it played a role, but misalignments or doubts, like what? How did you navigate that?
Yeah. So for me, it was, first of all, in any sort of like romantic relationship, I wouldn't tell them about like my PCOS.
Okay.
So already I was just like, not. Yeah, I was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to know because at the time I was just on the pill, right?
Yeah,
so like
for
throughout
PCOS.
the 6 years that I was on the pill, I was in relationships, but they didn't need to know because there's nothing.
Yeah.
There wasn't any apparent side effects that you could see, right? But what was actually really there, like at the source, like at the root of it, was like I never powerfully chose to be on the pill, right? So I was always just like I was just like, yeah. So then in these relationships that just like weren't working, it's like I just said yes to them, like yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a powerful choice. That's what it taught me at that time, like, looking back. So that's the alignment of, like, who I was and, like, what I was choosing for myself with PCOS at that time and, like, how to heal. Like, I was very complacent.
Yeah, like that's a good reminder of like when you were prescribed it, you had that voice and that sense of misalignment, but you went with it. And now talking a bit about relationships, like how did that same tone appear in relationships? Were you like, yes, you said you're yes, but like what else was that? Like how else did that look in relationships as a girlfriend? Like how are you a girlfriend?
I literally was like a robot. It was just like, whatever you say goes.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop everything. Like, that was an ongoing pattern. It's like I get into a relationship with a guy, and it's just like whatever I was doing, drop it all.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no sense of any sort of self-worth at all. And I just never was like, this is important to me. You know, I had an ex who was like, okay, I knew how, like, my acting career is like everything, right?
Yeah.
That's just like what it is to be an actor and an artist. It's like I'm just married to it. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And then I met this guy and he was like, okay, we're gonna run away to South America. And I was like, yeah, like I said that. But I was like, logistically,
First of all.
yeah. And I'm like, I have put blood, sweat, and tears so hard into my career. And then I'm like, yeah, sure. So it's like time over time, it's just like betraying myself with who I was, what I care about. Is never creating space, never saying yes to it, or never being like, this is important.
And I think that happens to a lot of women where like, but where do you think that origin is where you were like, we want to be like, yes, we want to make this relationship work, yes, yes, yes. Where did it come from for you?
Definitely that people-pleasing thing you're talking about, okay?
Yeah.
That way of being. And I would say, you know, it comes from being a woman, like, where how it occurs for me is that women are here to provide, to take care, to nurture.
Yeah.
So through motherhood, like my mom's like an amazing mom, but there's also that element of, you know, sacrifice.
I was just thinking that you
Right?
sacrifice yourself.
Sacrifice yourself to take care of others. And I think also with my culture, you know, women typically just being obedient, quiet, and like meek and like here to serve.
Yeah.
So that's all there in the background in my upbringing and my conditioning. So that was all there through like my PCOS quietness.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's really what's at the root of what's going on. Is like
it all connects. So was there a moment within a relationship, in relationships, where you had a huge misalignment moment where you were like, I have to fix something?
Yeah, something needs to shift.
Yeah.
Totally. I was in a relationship at that time. It was 2018 or 2017. And I had a thought. Like I was in a communication course. I was just sitting there, and I had this memory come up of back in this time when I was 22.
Okay.
And I had a sexual partner at that time, and I remember there was like some sort of upset. Like we had some sort of argument, and then he was going to leave, and all of a sudden we were doing it, and then I remember thinking, oh gosh, like I can't wait for this to be over. And then he could just leave and I won't talk to him ever again. So then like that happened, and I remember like he left, and I was like, that was something was crazy there.
Yeah.
And then I just buried that experience. I just never thought about it until when I was sitting in the communication course, and I was like,
what did that in that course, I guess, what did it symbolize? You're probably guided to like think of a time, so you brought up that memory. So what did that symbolize, that moment, I guess, that incident with communication?
Yeah, it was like I don't stand up for myself.
Oh.
I have like this thing in my brain, the voice that's like, you know, something's not right, but it wasn't being expressed through my voice. Like it's all here. Like I clearly know what's going on up here and in my heart and like in my womb space.
Yeah.
But then like expressing it, that's a whole other like challenge.
Yeah.
I found. So then like in 2017, like that memory comes up, and then it starts to all make sense as to like why I'm in the relationship that I'm in.
Oh.
Right? And I'm like, in that relationship, it was like I feel for my partners at that time, because I was like, what was it like being with me? Because I'm over here saying one thing but really meaning another. Right?
Wow.
So there's never actually any sort of agreement or any sort of like understanding of like what's actually there. Like, can you be honest with me? That kind of thing. Like I was never honest. I was never authentic. So that's what I realized. And so after having that memory come up, I also had what really hit me. You ever see Big Little Lies?
No, a little bit, yeah.
In one of the episodes, there's like this fight scene, and I remember like all these women are no, not the fight scene. It's like I forget what it's Nicole Kidman's character.
Okay.
And she's talking to her therapist, and she's being so like she's trying to cover up what's actually going on with her relationship with her husband.
Okay.
Right? And she's like, no, like, yeah, like we're fine, like everything's like really covering up. So, and I was like, I remember watching, I was like, oh my god, that's me.
Ooh.
Yeah, just never being straight or direct about what's actually going on in my own relationship. So yeah.
And I guess, like, yeah, with you saying that you never were clear in your communication, you were never really aligned in how you spoke. So I guess whether you said yes or no to, like, whether it's for food or for sex or whatever it is, you weren't, like, behind your own, there was no power behind whatever you were.
Exactly. And, you know, what I really learned looking back is, like, if I don't have a powerful no, like, what do my yeses mean?
Okay.
Right? It's like...
Wow. If you don't have a powerful no...
How do I have a powerful yes?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was living in that kind of world, like, dancing and, like, just pretending. And even with, like... my ex at the time, it was like just doing anything was just like me pretending, right? Whether it's like in bed or not, like everything's just pretending until like I realized I was like, okay, this needs to be over. Like,
yeah.
And completing that and then moving on into my journey of now like standing in like powerful no's. And that has definitely been like first off just sharing about what's going on with my body.
Yeah, because you weren't
like,
yeah.
So yeah, no, everything's fine.
So being first of all, being honest and authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And then so in that course moment, you have that realization, that memory, but also what it means for you. I guess what were your next steps? Maybe within that class that day, but like how did your alignment unfold?
Mm-hmm. That's such a big.
That's big,
huge. So it all led up to like breaking up with my partner at that time.
Okay.
It just wasn't working. Yeah, and then moving into moving on to a space on my own, being authentic of where my finances are, because coming out of that relationship, I was like, I wasn't authentic about my finances. So then sharing with, like, my parents, like, where my money's actually at, and not, like, hiding things anymore. I think it was really coming from, like, not hiding anymore, like, and really allowing for my community to contribute to me. Because also at that time, like, when I broke up with my ex, we were living together, and it meant I didn't know where to go. So I was really, like, fessing up to, like, my friends and being like, I need
help.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, like, come stay with us. So for a month there, I was just, like, couch surfing and, really being in people's love and care. And then that being the space for me to actually start, they're like, what happened? Like, why didn't you say any of this? What's actually, so then just me, like, coughing up, like, my fur balls all over and over. Like, it's just been, like, so much fur ball coughing up. And then, I think once I also got off the pill that year, like, I jumped into any sort of, like, expression, any sort of platform, like improv. I would jump out on stage. Like, I had literally nothing to lose. That kind of attitude where I was like, I'm going to express anywhere and everywhere. I started Toastmasters, and I just started speaking. And, like, every Mondays we would meet, and then I go start doing speaking events, and I started, like, competing in inspirational speakers, like, stories, and then, like, yeah, just, like, constantly just sharing whatever it was there for me to really develop my authentic voice.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went from a time where you're like, there's no power behind my yeses or nos, like, no power in my communication, to, like, I guess, like, you unraveled and you were drawn to, like, communication opportunities. Bring it.
Because what's there is, like, so ever since I was a little girl, if I'm not speaking, like, honestly, my throat would, like, just like start to clench.
See, and so then the body.
So then I'd, like, swallow. I'd be like making all these, like, faces, like, to be like. But it's also, like, the throat chakra as well. Like, later on, I started, like, incorporating stuff on how to, like, clear that space. But I was so committed to not having that tension anymore. It was so uncomfortable. And so that's how I know I'm on, like, it's to really go with it, because I'm on, like, the cusp of, like, some sort of breakthrough in my expression.
Okay.
So it's just, like, that throat thing, like, leading up to any sort of powerful choice I'm going to make. I'm like, I go with that now. So why that year I spent, too, was, like, I was off the pill, my face looked the way it looked, I was working like crazy, and I was just, like, at, like, nights, just, like, jumping on stage and just, like, it felt like I was making a fool out of myself. It really did. I was like, because I was like, I'm here to free my throat. Like, I'm here to free, like,
for your
who
voice.
I am. Exactly. And I'll share about, like, around my love life, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end of that year, 2019, I actually hired a love and dating coach. Because I got to the point, I got to the point where I was like, wow, like, this whole year and a half, or however long it's been, so transformative. I was like, I feel like a whole new person. Like, I actually feel like what I say lands for people. Like, I actually mean what I say now. And it feels so good. I feel so accomplished. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm ready to get back in there.
Okay.
And start dating again. Right? And, like, really get clear on, like, who I am. Like, what kind of partner I am for my man, it would be, right?
Yeah.
And so I hired this coach, and, like, what I discovered with her was, like, all the past stories of, like, with who I was in those relationships. And we went back to that incident when I was 22.
Okay.
When that happened. And I remember I was, like, shaking through it. That was the first thing that we talked about, because that was what was really there for me, like, in our first, like, call. And I was just, like shaking, like, a throat thing was happening again. And I was just came clean. And she's so incredible. And then she was saying, and then she's like, what are you getting from this? I was like, I didn't even try to say no.
Because you didn't think
in that moment, that's what it is.
In your nose, yeah.
And that blew my mind. I was like, I didn't even, like, go for it. I didn't even, like...
So you weren't saying no to anything.
Exactly. But in that moment of that time when I was 22, and I was like, I didn't even try. Like, who am I for me? Is someone who doesn't even fight for me. And that's my ongoing thing, is, like, what's there for me is, like, to say no and practice that. Because I'm worth it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I was like, oh, my nose, who cares? Like, I wasn't brought up to say no. A lot of women aren't.
Yeah.
So it's like, just say yes. This people pleasing thing,
like
right?
we said, the self-sacrifice, people pleasing.
So then we get caught in these situations because just for who I'm being, right? I'm just like, and it's like, oh, I can say no. And then it doesn't mean I'm a terrible person. I can say no and I'll get what I want. Like, I can say no and still be worthy of everything that I know that I'm worth and beyond. Like, it doesn't mean anything about me. If anything, it's like what I've learned now, it's even better because then all the people around me know who I am.
Exactly.
And what I'm committed to and what I want and what I like or whatever. But it was through that moment, I was like, oh, and I got so freed up. And then I was like, oh, and then I started really exercising my nose when I started dating again and like taking every single first date, like first blind date, as like an opportunity to be high value woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see that lesson of that you weren't saying no and you should be able to say no and show up for yourself totally makes sense how you said no to the pill.
Yeah.
You were like, I actually want to say no to this. I wanted to say no from the beginning, but I didn't know I could say no.
Yeah. I
did it for 6 years. I'm saying no. Like, you're on a you were finding your voice, listening, and like saying no. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you show up for yourself in relationships now? Like, how are you a girlfriend now?
Yeah. You know, I have it that like, I remember when I first started dating my partner. He's great. He's amazing. He's also our cameraman. So he's here. Hey, John. Like, look, like, so, you know,
to be able to work together.
Exactly, to be able to work together like this. And what was the question? I'm all like flustered because
I know because he's behind the camera. But like, I guess, how do you show up for yourself mm-hmm. in relationships now after mm-hmm. learning that, learning from your past, reclaiming your voice? Like, how are you a girlfriend now?
Yeah. So I'm in integrity. Like living by the power of my word and, saying what I mean. And if I just get to like be responsible for my language and my word and very committed.
Yeah.
And I'm very upfront about what I'm creating. Like when we first started dating, I was like very upfront about what matters to me, which is my career. And then like also sharing more about like where I'm at with my health.
Yeah.
So he like knows everything.
Yeah.
Right? And not being ashamed of even having a period. Like that experience of being with my period, like it takes something to like support when I'm like down. You know, like because it's like when my period takes me, I'm like I'm gone. Right? So being open, it's like being taken care of. That's what it's because I was always just like, oh, I'm going to do everything by myself and I'm going to take care of them. But then there's no space for my, like, not even just my partners, but like the people in my life to ever like care for me. Right. So.
Wow. So many nuggets. So like the bomb you dropped of knowledge was like, if I can't say a powerful no, how do I say a powerful yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? And then being cared for by allowing yourself to be vulnerable and cared by your community mm-hmm. kind of helps you learn how to be cared for by your partner. And like, I guess being authentic and honest to yourself, but also to who you're in relationship with in terms of like what you want.
Totally.
What makes you happy. Saying yes and no, what you like. And like with your health.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I like to add is really like who I was like throughout my 20s was like someone who's like just always going for it. Like just being able to be like a fool in action is something that what I discovered there, and that's really how I got freed up. I think that goes back to again like the feminine expression of being vulnerable, constantly putting myself in a vulnerable space. Mm-hmm. Like I do that already as an actress. But that's different. That was like
you're probably
like,
turning it on
thing.
And off.
Yeah, and then this being able to be in my life has only fed into my acting. Like the quality of my acting is just like
improved.
Yeah, I watch it. I'm like, who is this person? Right? I get to see my own transformation. But that's the thing when like, you can't just be vulnerable in one spot, one area of your life.
It all connects.
It It all connects, and it's just like I think I was just so relentless in creating, just being at home in my body, is just really what I'm committed to. Like in this lifetime, I think that's like my purpose, is to express what's authentically there. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna hear more about the cameraman, your love, and love life now, and in the next episode. But thanks for this. Like, this was amazing. This was so helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, good. That was a good share, Connie. Thank you so much for that. And as always, subscribe and like and share. And follow us on iTunes and Spotify.
You can listen to us there. Wonder Womb!